July. Oh, yeah, we got it. We don't care.
Okay, you have something else?
And I should be leaving here then.
So we need to fix it so that they
Yeah.
see.
Where am I?
Okay,
Yeah,
well, and Amy's gonna be late, so I was thinking I might put that off until she joins us.
Hey, you guys are squished in.
You need a more, right? You good?
You're good, I think. Oh,
Can't recognize the name.
Penny's got it.
Here, we need a mask for Zoom, right?
Depends where you are, Cliff. Okay, so how do I make myself?
You right click on your name.
Yep.
And then it says control, make this public. And Amy will be coming in and Brian Reeves.
All right.
And Beverly St. Clair.
And Beverly.
And she's the one who. I looked at it 3 times and it's still 6:58.
Could I have your names to put on?
Tony Mooney, Mauney, and Kevin Houston, Houghton,
Okay, the second one, Kevin.
Houghton, and we're at 18 Dublin Road.
Okay. What happened, Tom? Oh, okay, we're all good. Life is wonderful then. Everybody's happy.
You gotta remember to speak up with these masks though, because it's hard enough to pick up sound when we're not wearing them. Hard to pick up our sound. It's easy to pick up your sound. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense though.
I know. Well, I think what happens though, if someone's speaking up here and someone's speaking in the audience, it doesn't know where to go. Okay, I think it must be 6 o'clock. It is. I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna try to not have my glasses fog up. Adjustments to the agenda. I'd like to add under new business, the discussion about the lobster trap removal program. Jerry Grissom asked me to bring something up regarding that. And also under correspondence, I had a long conversation with Diane Post and I told her that I would relay her comments regarding the Island Road under correspondence because she didn't write any. So, Walter, any adjustments?
Yeah, 3. Transfer station renovation update.
Yeah.
A suggestion about 9-month budgets and actuals, and also an Island Road request.
Okay, remind me to take them up as we go. Yeah, I've got a couple things, but I think they're already somewhere else. And Terry?
Donation to the Conservation Commission.
Okay. Okay, I have several requests. Amy's gonna be late. Well, let's go with the public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, review and approval of prior meeting minutes. We have. That's the other thing. I licked my finger to turn my pages. September 7th and August 24th. Revision 1 and revision 0. Is there a motion? So moved. Second. To approve, I assume, correct.
What did you mean by September 7th?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. We have two sets, just one. It's 24th. I'm sorry, that's for my background. Okay, so just August 20th. Discussion? All those in favor? My apologies. Thank you. Okay. Department heads, August reports. We don't have. We have the assessors report,
Gave you a couple today.
EMA director's report, and there were a few in our packet.
We have ambulance.
Ambulance tonight. Yeah. Fire. And what's up in our packet? Any comments or discussion about those reports? Let's move on. Okay. I'm going to put A and B off because Amy said she was going to be late, and I'd like definitely see Amy on A, and I'd like her to participate on B as well. Jeffrey's right there.
Oh,
170.
okay.
Okay, so why don't Cliff asked, Cliff has to be somewhere, that's go, so he asked if we could consider item 6D and 7D early, so if there's no objection, I'm gonna ask that we bring those up, like we talked about both before. Is there a motion or discussion regarding 6D?
I move to approve an allocation of $5,000 of local ARP funds for the Knox County Clinic.
When and if we get,
Right.
I second that. Okay, discussion. I think we may have several of these as we move through months, so I'm gonna assume that built into that motion is provided that they agree to comply with the requirements. Right. So further discussion?
Yeah, I think as we make these motions, that perhaps the motion should attempt to tie the item to one of the specific guidelines.
Okay.
But I didn't go back and review them in order to do it for this motion.
Well, certainly health, improving health outcomes for people in need is way up there on the priority.
Right. And the other item I have is, have you heard back from the two daycare centers?
I heard back from one. And I didn't get a chance to call them today. They didn't really answer my question. And I have not heard back from them.
So thus far, we have this $5,000 and however many $200
And the
incentives
and the acting.
and the accident. $5,000. Okay.
And just since we've gone this far with this, Terry told me today that if we closed up the incentive today and everybody turned in their paperwork, it looks like we'd be close to 20. Which shocked me.
Yeah, good.
And Steve Betts called and wanted to know when the cutoff date was. And how many people were interested, because we wanted to do a little update, so we may get even a few more before the fall. So that's quite frankly beyond my expectations. So now that's assuming everybody follows through and brings in the paperwork. So okay, we got a little off track there. Sorry about
Well,
that.
to follow up on that, it's public health 1.6, medical expenses including alternate care facilities, and 1.10 mental health services. I think they would fit under both.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, and then is there a motion on 7D? We have a draft letter. This is just a letter of support for Knox County Clinic moving into the Thomaston Town Office. With the letter of support for the town of Thomaston, excuse me, the town of Thomaston seeking funds for that purpose. I would move that we approve the letter and authorize the chair to sign. Second. Further discussion? Do you want to, there was no money involved, yes, okay. Further discussion? Do you actually want to read the letter briefly or? Or is it too complex? Or summarize it? Or? I had it too.
I thought I had it. written.
There you go.
No, that's
No,
the,
that's
that's the thank you.
Oh. It looks like that, but
Except there's Knox County at the top of it.
I could have sworn we had. Well, anyway, do you want to just summarize it, Jeff?
It goes to the Knox County, and it mentions that we are going to support $5,000 worth, and strongly support Thomaston's request for funds going around.
Okay, that's how it is. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Cliff, you're all set?
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to sway the vote.
Go you forth and heal the sick, though.
Thank you very much.
Okay, has anybody else come in yet? Brian's only got the 7, so,
David Elwell.
okay, we haven't seen Brian Reeves open DOT. Okay, he's only got until 7, so when he comes in, if you could let us know, that would be great. Okay. Jeff Parker traveled down here, so I'm gonna take him up next if we could. Jeff is gonna talk to us a little bit. I'm not sure, I didn't know you were coming tonight, but that's great. So Terry, I don't know if you and Jeff have something planned or.
No, he kind of emailed at the end of the day before I went out that he thought he'd be able to make it if he finished with his LLB number crunching, and so I was happy to see him, but I didn't know that.
She's in charge of the dogs, I'll get the ponies.
Okay. So in a nutshell, we're looking for some recommendation and a proposal to improve the technology for remote participation and remote meetings if we have to go back to that.
So Terry and I have talked, and I took notes at that point, but I'd love to get, just a couple of quick questions for you guys. What's important to you? What do you feel your budget is, and how much expandability do you want?
Well, the complaints I've heard is people in the audience can't hear clearly. Difficult to see, it's difficult to know who's talking, particularly if it's coming from the audience. Just the general quality. And I can't see that little tiny screen over there who's on, so we were trying to hook it to there so I could see that. But Walter, Jeff?
Same. I mean, the audience can't hear us very well, regardless of Zoom or not. And I think that we want to have the fallback to be able to broadcast with the Zoom participants or the YouTube participants to hear, and for us to hear them, and also to expand the vision.
Yeah.
And right now we're using the camera on the computer, which means that the three of us have to scrunch together. And it would be better if the three of us could get 6 feet apart. That would alleviate the requirement. So,
And clearly Terry's got a lot to do during a meeting like this. There is one of the extra steps we could go would be removing the camera function from the computer and having a remote control camera up here, which could, as you are talking, could go into close-ups. And then, for instance, planning board, you could have plans right there that would be sharp, and people could see and stuff like that. Is that something you want to consider? Obviously, price is an issue, but I can make my normal way of going about it is to make sort of 3 different levels and then explain in horrible detail what each one means.
I think that would be great. Again, it depends on the price, but I also think it would be good if we had a camera that could show who's speaking in the audience.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have one here and one here, but we don't want to get into a lot of manpower to operate.
Right. How about minimal manpower?
Yeah. No man.
Ooh.
No, minimal.
It's a tough crowd. There actually is a way to do almost no. Okay, good. The other thing is, has anyone complained being in the room for those meetings where you can actually do that and hearing you that way? So Jeff says yes.
Oh, yes. Particularly with mask on.
Sure. Yeah. So, all right. And from a design standpoint, does that beam kind of separate the mosh pit from the I mean, in terms of where we would put speakers?
I think you're right, because if they're this side of it, they can probably hear. If they're on that side of it, they probably.
As a feedback issue too. So, excellent. Those are the gist of my question. You guys, if you had a magic wand, what would you want? I mean, you've outlined basic.
I personally don't know what we want, which is why
There you go.
which is why I asked them to talk to you.
And I do want to go off topic for just 30 seconds, which is to say that, and I may start crying here, you have on your agenda the EMS update. And I was a unexpected customer of yours 4 weeks ago, where I was coming across Muscle Ridge and had a heart attack. And now absolutely everybody, Alan and Skip met me at the dock at Merchants, and then the ambulance was there about a minute and a half later. And they saved my life. So I just wanted to give kudos out to the whole infrastructure and the people that are down here that really do care a lot. So,
Can I ask you a question?
yes.
What's your timeline for one, getting us your 3-tiered proposal? And then once we accept the proposal, what's the timeline for actually making it?
Well, given my doctor's order to not work so hard, I would say I would get paperwork to you before the next meeting. And
The 28th?
yeah, and then could probably, this is really simple. I mean, probably the first stage out, and you'll probably attack it in stages.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that we haven't spent any money that's a waste if the next stage is coming in. And probably within 2 weeks after your next meeting, probably between the meetings, you can be up and going, because it's only a day of install here.
Okay.
So I can fit that in.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
There. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks, Jeff. Be well.
Yeah, don't work too hard. Except on this, right? Okay, has anyone joined us? Brian has joined us. Is Beverly here?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, can you hear me? Brian? Oh. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We can. This is,
Perfect.
this is John Spear. I'm the chair of the select board. I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
Jeff Northgraves, the newest member of the select board.
Walter Wright's the longest tenured member of this board.
And I believe, I can't see the screen. We just talked about improving in the future, but I believe Beverly St. Clair, who is the one who reached out to you, is, and a resident here, is on as well. Can you hear me, Beverly?
I can.
Okay. So, thank you for joining us. Brian, why don't you introduce yourself so the audience knows who you are? I know who you are, but that might be helpful.
Certainly not a problem. My name is Brian Reeves. I'm the region engineer for Region 2 at Maine DOT. So I kind of oversee day-to-day engineering needs in the region and help work with towns and municipalities on different projects.
Okay. So basically, the region, in my experience, the region engineer is the head honcho in the region. Is that correct?
Not really. I do have a supervisor in the region. The region manager would be your head honcho. I'm number 2 or 3.
Okay. Okay. Well, this little bit of background, and Bev, you can help out at some point too, but I guess Bev had expressed some concerns about pedestrian friendliness on Dublin Road, which is a state road. And she emailed me about that, and I explained to her that that was a state road. And I also said it sounds to me like you're describing every road in South Thomaston, whether it's a state road or a town road. So that led to further discussion. And then lo and behold, DOT shows up totally unannounced, and we were unaware of it until a couple of days before, and does a lot of shoulder work on Dublin, which had nothing to do with the discussion we were having prior to that. But so my understanding is the purpose tonight is you were going to talk to us about a program that the state has to improve shoulders on state roads. And you were also, since you were here, kind of going to give us an update on the state's DOT's work plan for South Thomaston in general over the next 2, 3, whatever your planning horizon is. Is that kind of your understanding?
I can certainly try to do some of that. I do know of a couple of projects going on in the South Thomaston area. I don't necessarily have the entire work plan with me, but I did take a look at some of the paving that's going to be happening, as well as, I can go over a couple different avenues which municipalities can work with the state to get projects completed. There's a couple different ways out there. I guess part of what I understood as well is there was, with the state showing up on Dublin Road, there were a lot of positive comments in the shoulder work that was done, and some of this was looking to maybe add on to that and continue to do some improvements. Dublin Road is planned for what we call LCP, which is light capital paving, in 2022, along with, now I'm drawing a blank, the other road that loops around the airport, that is also in the 2022 LCP program. So what that is a 5/8 inch overlay on the road. We do this on our corridor priority 4 highways. And what you all saw was we try as much as we can to get out ahead of these projects and do any ditching and shoulder work that's needed prior to the paving to try and clean things up. And that way, any damage that occurs to the pavement from the equipment doing that work will be smoothed over in the next year's paving cycle. As far as kind of vehicles to do projects, obviously the state always welcomes, working with towns and municipalities on making improvements to state aid, state highways. We do have a couple vehicles. The first kind of simplest is what we call a cooperative agreement. This is a very simple between the region and the municipality. We figure out if there's additional work that a municipality wants to do within the limits of an existing project and is similar to the work that we are already doing. We work out a split on the cost share, or equipment use, or any such, some sort of basically a financial or work split, usually 50-50. And we go ahead and get additional work done in the limits of that project. We also have the Municipal Partnership Initiative, which is a separate pot of money that the state has available every year. It's been a very popular program. That program, municipalities can come to, again, the region engineer, myself, with a project that they have in mind. And then based upon the valuation of the municipality, that determines the split in cost. And the state will then take the region engineer then takes that project before all of the region engineers, and we decide a work plan for the MPI program, usually about 2 years out at this point, due to the popularity. And we dedicate funding to that and work up an agreement with the municipality. I am told there's going to be a third vehicle to do this called the Village Partnership Initiative, kind of building off of the MPI program, a little more geared towards smaller municipalities to make things a little easier on smaller projects in smaller towns. But last I knew, that's still in the pretty early stages and hasn't made it extremely far. So I kind of continue to push people toward the MPI program for the larger projects. Yep.
Does the municipal partnership program have to be on a state road, or can that be on a town road?
It has to be at least on a state aid highway, which would be like Dublin Road is a state aid.
Okay, so basically all of these programs are looking for the town to contribute funds to improve the state road, so to speak. There's nothing flowing the other way.
That's where I'm not sure what the VPI program, the Village Partnership, I don't have all the details for that yet. And I honestly, I don't know if that will be a little more geared toward town ways or not.
Bev, did you want to ask any questions at this point, or are you?
Well, first, I want to thank Brian for speaking with me the other day. You explained a lot. I appreciate it. I am wondering since we are having this paved, and you're recommending shoulder work be done prior to paving, what would be the deadline for kind of getting this going?
So I will say it's hard to tell due to the cost increases on all of our paving. What the department has gone to for LCP is we literally bid the projects out and give the contractor essentially the entire summer window to schedule the work whenever they want to. So unfortunately, it kind of becomes a guessing game based on who gets the project, on where they're going to start and when they're going to start, because they have all summer. That's why I was encouraging, if we want to do shoulder work, I think this fall or early spring next year is kind of our only window to make sure that we beat the LCP project that's coming through.
I do have one more thing to say. I don't know why.
Can you speak up a little?
Oh, yeah, maybe I'm not close enough. I was surprised. The one thing I was surprised to hear was that it's two separate projects. The shoulder separate from the paving. So that was a learning curve for me to realize it was two separate projects, which seems weird to me, but it really is a public safety issue. So to me, it doesn't seem like an option. I think the only option really is whether it's gravel, paving, or a sidewalk. I'm assuming gravel would be the most cost-efficient way to go. And it does seem not just for pedestrians. It's a safety issue also for vehicles, obviously. I like the gravel shoulder the best because then cars can pull over easily rather than obviously sidewalks are cumbersome sometimes for that purpose. But it seems like what I think Brian's saying is we're safe to do this project and to apply to the state for this 50-50 split before summer next year because we know they're probably not going to be, or before spring.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage the town that if you really want to pursue this, is let's continue the conversation and let's see if we can't get a plan together this fall, as early as possible. I know we're kind of running out of construction season and see what we can figure out. And I'll certainly pitch it to my supervisor, who ultimately I do have to get some approval from above me to okay these cooperative agreements. But essentially, if it's got the region engineer and the region manager's support, it tends to be okay. And to clarify, Bev, really too, generally our pre-work to the paving is done by maintenance forces. That's why it's two different projects. Essentially, is our maintenance forces will do the ditching and the shoulder work, but we don't do any large scale paving. So the paving is contracted out.
Okay. So the other last thing is that it's 1 mile from basically the Little Red Schoolhouse to the town line, which I think the town line is the second, correct, right? Just before Valley Hat. Is that the line for South Thomaston?
Agreed.
Okay, so it's about 1 mile. So.
True, right?
What's up?
You want the town road and town line on Dublin Road, it's the second title creek. So
So it's 1 mile from
Mhm.
the Little Red Schoolhouse, just for purposes.
I'll be honest with you, when I first heard about this, I said, oh, great, maybe South Thomaston can get some help with improving the shoulders on its road. And then when I heard you say a cooperative agreement in the email, I said, oh, he's thinking the other way.
Yeah.
Right now, we could spend $100,000 removing sand berms from our road, and bushing. And we didn't budget anything for this. And I don't know, I can't personally see us budgeting money to help the state improve one of their roads when our roads are in dismal shape and in desperate need of paving. So I confess I was very disappointed when I learned, oh, this isn't what I thought it was at all.
No, I can certainly understand that. I can offer a small ray of hope, at least, is so after we do LCP projects, it's not significant, but we do come back that paving up with gravel. It's usually about 2 feet wide. So I know that's not a significant amount, but that is something else that will come with the LCP project, is approximately 2 feet of gravel shoulder will be kind of fixed at that time as they back up the new pavement.
And is there any plans for Buttermilk? Buttermilk Lane, that's a state aid road that runs from.
I have to check the year, but I want to say there is maybe in 23.
Okay.
I'll have to check the work plan. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick.
It was paved 4 or 5 years ago and it was a disaster. It all peeled off and delaminated. And then they came out again, I think a couple of years ago and repaved it. But I'm just curious about that. And then I also understand that the reclamation project that was planned for 73 from the Village Road to the St. George line has now been put on hold.
It's been delayed.
Well, that's put on hold.
Yeah, so it's been delayed because we ran into an issue with a culvert, and that's in environmental review. It looks like we're gonna have to upsize the culvert and replace it. It's an old stone box. There's also some historical review going on, so we we had to push it back because we had no certainty that we would be able to replace it next year prior to the paving project, unfortunately.
Okay, so that's not the one you're replacing on this September from the 13th to the 16th.
So there are multiple culvert replacements on that road. But this is a bigger one. This is in the very, we just cleared it out. It was a beaver bog area, and there's I think, so yeah, that's South Thomaston, and it was a beaver bog upstream, and it's a very deep fill section. Has an old stone box in it.
Yeah.
But just up the road, there's like a tidal cut, and there's a short culvert and a hanging culvert. We have to do work on both of those.
Okay. Because I will tell you, whatever that process was, and I can't remember the name of it, but they did from basically the Owl's Head line or Buttermilk to Village Road was tremendous. It's held up unbelievably well.
Yep, that is the PM wrap.
Yeah, usually when you do the little skinny mix, which you now call light capital paving, I mean, it's like painting the road and it lasts a year or two. And so I was really disappointed to hear that had been delayed, but. Other comments or questions? Well, thank you very much.
I just want to ask about the culvert at the village cemetery and the entrance of the library, that those were part of the project.
Our librarian's here, and I've been communicating with Paul Stilpen, and he has indicated he's going to replace the culvert that goes into the village cemetery at some point, and she's asking if you know anything about that.
I don't. The crew supers tend to take care of like driveway culverts, is what this sounds like. With fairly little input from the region engineer, region manager, they kind of have authority to go ahead and replace those culverts as needed.
Okay. And then there's actually, I have there's 6 or 7 things on the list that people complained about. The other one was with the library entrances, and he's indicated that he was going to get to them when he can, but so we're just curious, I guess, if you know anything more about that. But it sounds like that's below your pay grade.
Well, I mean, I certainly can be in touch with Paul and discuss anything that you would like me to, just see what he's doing for schedule. So the library the library entrance for, what's the issue at the library entrance?
There's just a big hole right there in the ditch where people's rear tire goes into the ditch when they come to take a right-hand turn out of the library off the Dublin.
And then the cemetery entrance culvert.
The culvert, same thing. There's a big hole. It's basically blocked on the upwater side. And then we've got several complaints about the pavement that transitions from Westbrook Street to Route 131. Fire chief is back here nodding his head, yes. And Paul has acknowledged that. And actually on all of these, he's acknowledged them and said he was going to fix them. So I don't mean to be sort of throwing him under the bus here, so to speak.
Oh, and that's fine. I'm not going to go to him and yell at him or anything like that. But I can certainly, next time I see him, is just remind him that, hey, this stuff is still at the top of the list for folks in town. So.
Yeah, and then there's a really bad shoulder drop off on Buttermilk that I actually sent him a photograph of. It's right on the white line. It dropped off about, 10, 12 inches straight vertically. And it's a little shoulder washout. And there's 3 or 4 other ones that I don't have committed to memory. But he's aware of them all, and I know he's working on them.
And I can also look into when Buttermilk will get, I believe it'll be an LCP. Unfortunately, that's just budget wise. That's what we're doing for all our highway corridor priority 4s these days.
Okay, any other comments? I think we're all set, Brian. Thank you very much. You there?
Absolutely.
Brian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Yep, thank you. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out. Have a good evening.
Okay, take care too. Thanks.
Bye.
Makes this meeting in plenty of time. So, why don't we also move Gus and Missy Robbins up? Is that agreeable to everyone? You're here to discuss Thorndike Cemetery, as I understand it? You want to? Well, let me just a little background. I understand that you folks are mowing that now.
Mowing it, but maintaining it.
Yeah.
Then.
Can I do a little
Sure, go ahead.
green?
Yeah.
So, last fall, when we finished up the sensitive repairs at Thorndike through the Greystone Gather, but shortly after, a lot of damage was discovered up the village from the lawnmowers, hitting footstones and headstones in the old part of the cemetery. So I came in and I asked the board to ask the mower to not mow anymore. And then this spring, Duck and Missy started mowing and leaf whacking and actually clearing back into the woods that had been creeping forward. And complaining some of the cemetery that has been overgrown for years. There are two stones were put back together last year that have been mostly off.
And Gus and Missy own the property that
Right.
includes the cemetery or surrounds it, or however you want to word it.
And it's on there.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are doing a wonderful job. They have taken immaculate care of the cemetery. It looks wonderful. Been very conscientious about these sensitive old stones. The early stones are that we can read are 1806. These are very old Catholic stones that were righted and glued back together, whatever they needed. They just got every stone in such their last year. And I would like to see them receive some sort of compensation and perhaps appointed overseers or caretakers of the graves in Thorndike. It is considered an ancient burial ground. And therefore the town has responsibilities to maintain that grave.
Right. And that's the property we secured the easement on years ago for access purposes, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of ways we could go at this. I mean, if we hired you as contractors, you'd have to have insurance, unfortunately, so that gets expensive for one little project. As an employee, that wouldn't be an issue. Any thoughts or questions? And what type of, we already have agreed, correct, to reimburse for gas and oil and stuff like that, correct? Kenny, we already agreed, as the board here, to reimburse for gas and oil and stuff like that, did we not? That's my recollection.
I believe so. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Thoughts, questions?
So if they're a 1099 contractor, and they need insurance?
Yeah.
Huh. Liability insurance, that includes us as also insurance.
And then if there's, and actually, if both of them did, they would technically, they both have to Go ahead.
but if you're given a stipend,
No, that's different. That's not what we're talking about. That's an employee.
okay,
I don't think I'm not paying people that were contracted to do the work we did that, they've only shown us once for the season.
yeah,
Nope.
yeah, but not, okay.
Yeah,
that's
no,
the repair.
no, we made an arrangement with them. They're gonna not start mowing the field to the left of Village Cemetery in exchange for getting rid of, not doing one. Yeah. But yes, if you folks were employees, that issue goes away. And I also heard through the grapevine that you might be interested in doing some other maintenance work. Did I hear that?
You heard that.
Because we definitely could use some.
But right at this point, I get a doctor's appointment and I gotta wait the result, see what's gonna go on with that. Then I'm gonna get in touch with Penny about it.
Yeah.
And to set it up for whoever I'm supposed to talk to.
Okay.
But since we've been there, we've been maintaining the driveway, everything, we've cut the trees down that should not be there. And we were driving people out of there, paying close to people, doing stuff they should not be doing there.
Yeah.
And my understanding that I can't close off the graveyard because it's a graveyard.
Right, and we have an easement, but we can pull it up at certain hours.
That'd be great if somebody, would, because I got a 15-year-old daughter, stuff goes on down there, she doesn't need to see that.
I mean, we could close it up, dusk it on or something like that. I mean, I think we have to double check that, but there might be. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I've even gone down and cleaned up dog waste.
Let us check on that. Is that something you'd be interested in, say,
Yeah.
about the dog closure? I think we need to do check on that, but I suspect we can. It's not a public road.
No, it's not.
We just have an easement for access to the cemetery.
Right.
That doesn't mean that people have to be able to access.
It is a good education for my daughter because she goes down there and she reads what's on the gravestones and stuff. And Johnny, when he was buried there, I knew him before he died.
So, where do we want to go from here? I mean, I have no objections to appointing them both as assistant. What do you, cemetery overseer?
I know.
Yeah,
but I
assistant
think that
secretary overseer or something like
you
that.
have to have a caretaker of the individual cemetery, much like you used to.
Yeah.
Before they became town owned.
I personally have no objection to that. I think it's, but I don't know how much we're talking about. I don't know if you got a number in mind or, yeah, we can do it on an hourly basis. The problem, we didn't budget it for that. And we didn't gain any money from the mowing contract when we swapped the deal, so. How many hours would you say you have into it?
I
Wow,
didn't add them out.
no. Oh, a lot. Time period? 9/5/20 to. That's it, to 5/29/21. So. Yeah, 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I'd have to, I don't know if someone can add quicker than I can, but.
At one time there was.
Is that both of you each time?
Sometimes it's just me, sometimes at that time.
So we don't have to double that?
No,
Okay,
it's not.
okay.
It's always combined.
At one time, the mowing contract was broken out by several years.
Yeah.
And we decided we don't want, we'd rather have them do it and they'd rather they do it than to go back to having a contract.
Well, and his equipment really is not suitable for that cemetery. In Travis's equipment, it's basically the problem, right? Even if you were super careful, the equipment's really too big, as I understand.
Those, Mr. Elmo was, yeah,
Zero turn, he only has 0 turn mowers, is that what it is?
0 10 mower. I guess what I do, I go down one way, make sure I stay with the gravestone about that far. Then I turn around down at the end, I come back through, and that's where I do the whole graveyard.
And when he can't get in with the rider, we do it with push mower.
Then we use a weed whacker and go around all the gravestones and stuff.
And Doug has also mentioned he would like to fill in some of the low spots because there was quite a hilly area and I did have money left in that budget that we could have a lower loan delivery and I have grass seed and hay left from the village project.
I used to mostly somebody come down and fall in on them.
So do you have a rate per hour in mind or?
No,
Okay. Well, it have to be, if we're gonna do it on an hourly basis, it would have to be minimum wage. At a minimum. If we're gonna do it on a stipend basis, that would be different. That wouldn't be on an hourly basis. But. You got a
Would it
question?
be possible to have money taken off about taxes, you know, the work in some period?
Everybody comes in with that idea.
just trying to make it easy.
Because none of that, if you're getting paid, you're gonna, it's subject to FICA and withholding tax and, you know, so. If you took it on your taxes, it wouldn't be, so it would be trouble with the IRS
Oh, yeah. Got about those guys.
and pesky little agency that. Well, do we wanna sleep on this to the next meeting? Think
Yeah,
about it a little
I think
bit?
so.
So, can you throw out what would be an acceptable hourly rate? Can we keep this?
Yeah, yeah. What do you think?
You say something about stipend?
Yeah, a stipend typically is less. You get it like an annual, like Penny gets a stipend for the library of how much?
500 for the library, 800 for the.
And so she gets probably 28 cents an hour. But it's a salary, so to speak, for lack of a better word, just, you know. But you don't have to track your hours or, you know, so, I mean, it would just be an annual fee that the town would pay out and,
I never did this before, so
yeah, I know, yeah.
I just got to see the graveyard, we would keep going down.
No,
and
no, we understand, we understand. It's just, we need to, if we're gonna strike a deal, we need to come up with some particulars. So,
Yeah, I think it's from down our hours and so,
yeah. Well, why don't you think about it and we'll think about it. We don't, this is the first we've heard of it really tonight, a little bit to Penny, so, and we're meeting again on the 28th. We'll put it on the agenda then. We can have someone add up those hours.
Yeah, it's just under 75 hours. That looks like for a year.
Was it a year? Started in September and ended
In
yeah,
9/5 to 8/27.
yeah, so we get another. Yeah. But what we couldn't do, I mean, you couldn't just say, geez, I want to do this project and go and spend 30 hours on that without, just because you want to, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? If you, the mowing and the trimming and that would be one thing, cutting the bushes, but if you want all of a sudden to do some special project, we'd have to discuss that, right?
Yeah.
But we got other cemeteries that need fences or whatever, so. Okay, great,
Okay,
yeah. And think about that maintenance, so.
yeah,
what would it entail in it?
Oh, we always got little projects. We need a couple of tiles replaced in the chief's office. We need a little roof on the little doghouse out here. The entrance that goes down into the, what they call the Lions Club. This, constant little front door needs to be painted. Help me. It's always windows, Phil's windows been broken now for.
Yeah.
Doghouse needs gutters.
Yeah, gutters need to
Rain
be
gutters.
clean. It's constant little projects, but the nice thing is you can Iowa, so you can do them on your own time. Yeah.
Don't you worry about the bushes, you know.
Oh, the one on the corner of Evans and one that you can't see around it.
Yeah.
They rode in by Charlie Godfrey's.
Yeah.
If you can't see, get in, walk with the road.
Yeah, and I hate to tell you that depending on whose bushes they are, whether the state or the town, that's another issue.
That's okay, I go out some night, sometime at night.
I do that. I walk down Island Road and trim it all the time. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, great. Let's, oh, Amy's here. Okay, go back to Amy then, since she was first on the agenda. Good evening, Amy. Hi. Anything to report on EMS regionalization, or is it still
I have a meeting tomorrow.
Mike? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we have a meeting with some of the chiefs tomorrow. I think it's 3:30.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Have you thought at all about the idea that we kicked around a little bit last week of maybe a smaller bite at the apple? Things didn't progress well, kind of like St. George, South Thomaston, Owl's Head, Thomaston. Have you given that any thought, or?
I have, yep. And I think that's a good idea. And I think that that's why I think we're starting small and doing just some chiefs and see where it goes and see what people's thoughts are. I think it's just the beginning. But I agree with you, John. I think it's a great idea.
So the meeting tomorrow, though, is the lodging, correct? I mean,
No, I think there's like 6 of us.
but it includes Camden and.
It does.
Yeah, so I mean.
It does because that's
I meant
yeah,
larger than
that's
the population.
yeah, that's who had started it. So that's why we kind of I just said, yeah, I'll definitely be there. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure I have input too. So
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we should take the steam out of that or take the sails out of the wind, take the wind out of the sails on that. I just felt if that didn't progress, that we could maybe, talk about something a little smaller. And I believe the chief has, did you? No, you don't. Okay. Oh, you're on the next. The next item on the agenda, we could, that, and we did send the letter to the county, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
You want to update us on that, or the public do?
Yeah. In our cover letter for the 3 projects that we requested ARP funding for, we put a large paragraph in there asking them to take leadership with both planning a meeting and with ARP funds towards regionalization of EMS in the short term, fire in the home.
Have we heard any?
We have not heard anything other than they got it.
Okay, and then we didn't get a response from Owl's Head Selectmen, we know.
Yes, the Owl's Head Selectman and
One.
correct, one of the selectmen, but apparently he had been in conversation with the other selectmen. And also from Rockland, both of them strongly supporting it, saying it's very timely.
Rockland.
Rockland,
Who was it from Rockland?
John Allen,
City. Okay. So Amy, we're, or everybody actually, I guess I'll start with Terry. We're about a week into our new mask policy. And I guess, Terry, have we had any issues or problems implementing it? And start with that.
No, most everyone comes in with a mask, but if they don't have one, we have them, we can give them one and they put it on their own. Like, no one's complaining.
So has anybody who wants to remove their mask not been willing to show you that they're vaccinated, or?
No.
Okay. So I know, Amy, you had some comments back when after we first did this policy after the meeting. And Brian, I have some tonight. So,
I'm just here to listen, since
okay,
that way I can find out really what's going on.
okay. So you don't know what's going on. So do you feel, your comment was, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you felt that our exception policy was too liberal, I guess. And that everybody should be masked all the time. That was my impression. Do you still feel that way, or? We did make some changes to the policy where it basically said you could require your staff to be masked all the time if you wanted to.
Yeah,
So, does that satisfy you, or?
yeah, I'm good with that. I think the biggest thing is that we're all safe. I mean, we have everybody, and like I said, vaccinated EMS wise, and it's required, you know.
Okay.
But, yeah, so I'm good. I'm good with it.
We can let this mature for at least another couple of weeks and see how it works. And Brian now does have a problem.
I have to listen, because the only way I know what's going on with all this is through Amy.
I sent you
Send it to an email that I don't even look at.
Oh, and then I forwarded it.
I never got it. With Terry and Amy, we got it figured out.
Okay, I mean, you could have got it from Terry too.
Well,
Okay.
the email I got was from the listserv, which caused a big uproar with the fire department, and people refused to come, and because I didn't have the original one with all taken care of.
I thought everybody now is using the self-promise. Quite frankly, I don't understand why you're not, but that's another discussion.
Pay attention to. I don't even know how to log into that one. I've never shown how to do it. We can discuss that.
Yeah, that's another issue.
My only ask or request is going forward, when we're talking about masks and making changes, can Amy and I be a part of these discussions before decisions are made?
You can, but neither one of you were at that meeting last week, and we felt we needed to get something done quickly.
I'm just asking for the future. I understand the almost.
We felt there was sort of a sense of emergency, and to involve you two at the last meeting, since this came up late in the agenda. Amy, you actually were there, I think, in the beginning, but then we talked.
I was.
Yeah, then we talked about it later on in the meeting because someone brought it up, and we felt we needed to enact something right away. So no, I want to talk. So you have objections from your staff?
I did until I had to clarify everything. Because they all, some of them are on part of the listserv. And that's what they saw.
Yeah.
And then once I explained that we can make our own decisions in regards to when we're out there and when we go on calls, and the deputy chief and I discussed, everything is now fine on our side of it.
The listserv did not have all the exceptions of the
Correct.
full policy.
Ah,
The listserv just said, if you come into any building, any town-owned building, you have to be.
I didn't know that.
And that was me, because that's going out to the public and they don't need to know the exceptions because they don't apply to them. So that was me. I sent it out to the public
Yeah,
saying.
except that some of the public it does apply to if they happen to be in the fire department.
Yeah,
So,
but I thought that the fire department would be able to handle their own things, but Brian didn't. So.
yeah. Which
It's all
was-
been handled, it's all taken care of.
Well, no, but it's important we learn because it's, particularly in these times, miscommunication is a problem.
And I do want to go back to the email. Aren't we paying for his email address?
Yes.
Okay. So either, and the other thing is for FOA, that email address is important to us because right now, if you're using your email addresses, somebody wants to see everything you've done with the town, they can requisition your computer to get your personal email address information off of it to find out if there was anything explorable. By using the town email address, then that provides it and that's stored here. Your private email and your computer don't become discoverable because it's on a phone address.
I totally understand, Jeff, and if that was said back when this was put in, however many years ago, that would have been awesome. But I don't even know what the email address is. I've never been told how to log in. I don't even know how to get to it. I've never been, I'll come see Terry on Thursday since I think it's gonna rain. And I will
get on that, and that's not, once I get shown how to use it, not a problem. But I was never told when it got implemented back whenever, last year, the year before, I was never told I had to use it. So I didn't use it. I was never shown, but that's fine. And my other little question I have, not to keep this going, is because it was brought up with the chiefs the other night in regards to the vaccine. Because Amy is gonna correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't ask anyone if they're vaccinated or not, it's not allowed. So what is your role? Okay, I'll hold my question, go ahead.
No. But our policy says you don't have to provide proof that you're vaccinated. Yeah, but if you don't provide proof, then you gotta wear a mask.
Okay. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against anything you guys got going on. It's clarification. We're looking at new members.
Yeah, I know.
If someone new comes, we don't, Bureau of Labor is not, can't put it in there yet. State hasn't made a definite decision yet. So we're kind of like, do we put it in our personal policies for the fire department? You know, I'm trying not to get us, all of us, into trouble. I mean, I know Amy's giving me a full, we have one person on our department because of the issues, can't have it. She is signed. So we have documentation. Everyone else on the fire department has taken it, no issues whatsoever. We're just looking at when and if a new member decides to join the department, how are we to handle that?
Well, my thing is they don't have to provide you the proof they're vaccinated. But if they choose not to, they better wear a mask. That's my thing. So we're not forcing anyone.
No, and I'm not taking it that way, and that's not been any of the uproars, and that's fine. It's just more the fact of, do I put it in our policy under the fire department? Be a part of the fire department, you must be vaccinated.
I would do
Brian,
that.
Go ahead.
Go
can I
ahead,
say
Amy.
something?
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
sorry. I would say there's gonna be an answer to that, Brian, with the state level soon. If they're within 6 feet or for more than 15 minutes with patient care, so code situations, lift assists, car accidents, it's probably going to be a mandatory thing. Just so you know. That's, so, I mean, we may want to wait until that becomes mandatory, but it's probably coming.
And thank you, Amy. But Brian, please understand, so this is all very rapidly developing, very fluid. So try to explain to your guys, trying to do the best we can with limited information, changing information.
No, after last Monday night, Amy, while I was in Brunswick and wherever she was, I got very much educated and up to speed on everything that's going on. Yeah. So I'm good. Okay. We'll move forward with everything going on. So,
And I apologize for not using the correct.
so I'll get that fixed by the end of the week.
Okay. Amy, we need Amy for anything else?
I have new hires. Are we doing that now or later?
Oh, yes. Wait, did we know about that? Yes.
And they're both on Zoom.
I didn't write that down. Did you mention that, Karen?
It's in the background. note.
Oh,
He has joined. soon.
okay. Sorry.
It was on my report, I think.
All right.
And I,
Okay. So we can deal with that. I just gotta find it.
they're both on Zoom, Ryan and,
Okay, I only have one. That's Brian Colson.
Also, Gabby,
Bowman.
yeah, Gabby.
Well, that was not in the background notes, but it was on.
That's in her.
You gotta pay attention. So, now I sympathize with Brian.
I don't see Gabby on yet, so I don't know if she,
What's her last name?
BAUGHMAN.
M.A. Okay. Okay, so you want to introduce Brian and Gabby, even though Gabby's not here?
so Ryan, are
Hello,
you on?
I am, yes.
Okay. So this is Ryan Colson. He is an EMT. He has moved to the area. He used to be on St. George Fire and took a class, an EMT class with us. Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yep. I'm Ryan. I live on the Denison Road, just down the road from the station. I'm currently an EMT at CLC on a transfer right now, but couldn't miss the Zoom meeting. Excited to join. Like serving the community, like the volunteering aspect. And I'm currently in the Coast Guard, getting out in a year.
Okay, great. So you actually live in St. George, is that correct?
Right over the line, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because that changes from Grierson Road to Dennis Road at the line, right? Correct?
Yeah, I'm about a quarter mile past the Grierson line.
Okay, that's fine. Other questions, Ryan?
Welcome, welcome.
Is there a motion?
Thank you.
I move that we approve support Amy's recommendation to hire Ryan Colson as the EMT.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, Amy, you want to talk a little bit about Gabby?
So she's brand new. She's taking an EMT class in the area and showed interest in being on South Thomaston. So what we can do is table it if you want until she comes to the next meeting. It's totally up to you.
Is that going to damage your timeline with her or?
No, not at all. She's just probably less than a month into her class, and if you'd rather meet her, I'm okay with it, and she's okay with that. So she has class tonight, so it could be that it wasn't a break or something. So
this all came about because of an incident several years ago. Town council weighed in and said that we had better meet every new hire and approve every new hire.
Yeah, approve, I understand, but she said meet as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
she was very forceful about it.
okay, so you'd prefer to table?
Absolutely.
Well, actually, we don't need a table because it's not on the agenda.
yeah, so I'll just put it on for the next meeting and see if she can be here.
Yeah, and she's being recommended for what level?
A driver. She's in an EMT class now.
Right, okay.
So,
Recommended hire now as a driver.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You all set?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fire, Amy.
Okay. This is agenda, so. Okay. Can I assume the three of you are here to talk about the Little Red Schoolhouse? Is that a reasonable assumption?
We are.
Because I heard the name.
Hopefully, reset your email.
Yeah, and I responded to you, asked you to give me a call, and I never heard back. Probably in your trash. Okay, so if there's no objection, I want to take a Little Red Schoolhouse up out of order. Okay, Walter, you asked last week where this stood, the repairs and painting of that. And if you'll recall, the plan was to replace the shingles on the front with volunteers. I don't know where that's at currently. Maybe Penny can fill us in. But then the rest of it, we developed, actually I developed with Penny, a bid spec, which we attempted to solicit several quotes from. I spoke to 3 or 4 people. Nobody's interested, too busy. We ended up getting one quote, almost $10,000, just to paint and not the front. So I feel with that kind of money, we should be looking at some other options rather than painting those old shingles. For $10,000 and then having to do it 3 years from now or 4 years from now. Can I ask you, is the front volunteer project still in the works?
Well,
Year? Okay,
It's supposed to be done in.
so that's on hold then?
Yeah, and the contractor that we kind of oversee is very busy.
Yeah. Can I ask who that was?
Done.
John Snow? Okay, so you don't anticipate that's gonna happen this fall, or do you?
Well, I thought once we're going to revisit exactly what should happen to the entire building.
Yeah, but short of that, I mean, let's assume we weren't gonna do anything.
Well, if the
It could,
supplies came through, we could.
yeah,
Um,
but John's probably busy, so. So, I personally feel we should either come up with some plan to incrementally attack replacing shingles, maybe dipping them in a stain. I even thought about, don't jump down my throat, everybody. Nowadays, they have these great looking vinyl shingles. I know. That's not vinyl siding,
I'm not gonna interrupt.
not vinyl siding. Right,
the materials that
look like shingles.
are pre-colored and will last for 75 years compared to the 35 years that a senior shake is
Maybe.
maybe.
Um,
And that doesn't include the painting that should happen every day.
And don't forget, we have vinyl siding on the Historical Society building right behind us.
That's not the little reds.
I know it is. But I understand it was not originally red.
It was,
So,
Now, the Historical Society put in those windows to look like the windows that were originally there, but they are slate glass. They're not single double hung to replace what was in the schoolhouse. They put a suspended ceiling in. I think that it's reflected in the spirit of how the building looks. That sometimes to be more responsible with the money rather than slap 10,000 in painting.
well, and I don't think that's the trade-off, though.
Well,
The trade-off, in my mind, is, painting versus residing it, and then the sub-question is what siding?
but nobody will go to stain now. We are stuck with paint on these old shingles.
Oh, no, I know that, I understand that, that's why I'm saying that's not, those aren't the questions. The question is whether to paint it or reside it. In my mind, painting is out, given the question.
so
That's
it's you're saying reside it and stain it.
right, or go to some alternative,
Go
Yeah.
into a composite.
which, by the way, is $173 for half a square. So we're talking a lot of money, but a lot of time. And I wouldn't do that without a lot of public input either. But anyways, did you have a question?
Maybe a comment. We are probably the newest people in the community here. However, we do have long-term roots, especially on Spruce Hill. We're expanding our home right on Dublin Road. If you go by there, you'll note that we have new shape all over that expansion. And it is painted with stain. And our backyard looks like a clothesline where we
Yeah.
hang them to
Different.
dry.
Yeah.
Yes, so it is available and a second grade shape, which in no way is really a lesser quality product, is available at a fairly decent price. I retired from Lowe's, and I don't want you to think I'm any kind of hero or guru, because my job was director of human resources, so I wasn't slinging shape. But I'm saying the products are available, the stain is available, and I think we could even get a bunch of volunteers around there, if nothing else, to paint or stain shape. It is an eyesore for anyone visiting the area, and it should be the #1 attraction. And I think you'll see there's a lot of money going into that neighborhood, not just us, but the Reeds, the Myers, the Zimmermans take care of their property. So, and then you come to the most historic part of town and it's fallen in. So I would really love to see the town put forth some energy, effort, and money, of course, into making this happen.
Well, I think we're trying. We're struggling to make that happen. I think we agree with the premise that needs to be done. The question is, how are we going to get it done? We've had a couple of different schemes. They've sort of fallen apart. I would, I'd like to talk to John Hanson about it, so, see what he has thoughts on. My personal preference would be to prepare a bid package, put it out for reshingle the whole thing, but not assume we're gonna get volunteers to do the front. And if that comes out, and we can get volunteers to do certain sections, but I would maybe peel that off and get something maybe lined up with next spring.
Makes sense.
But I mean, I don't think we're gonna get it now. It's almost mid-September. And John might be able to help us put together some sort of bid package or something, but.
And in the meantime, right now, the Historical Society has a committee chair for the Little Red Schoolhouse. And I am meeting with her and the president and the vice president on Thursday at the Historical Society, just to discuss the Little Red Schoolhouse. So I think if you look at the lease we currently have with the Historical Society, it can easily be altered to include them leasing the Little Red Schoolhouse. But the devil is always in the details, and that is who then takes over electricity, maintenance, shingles, painting, future painting, whether they maintain it as a historical building with historical shingles on it, or if they are. So I think part of it is a discussion with the Historical Society, who I see not as the long-term owners of that building, but as long-term maintainers of that particular.
Well, yeah, and I was gonna bring that up under, when we talked about the moving the library. That's why we brought it last time, but since we delved in there, we can continue that conversation, but can we put the other one to bed first? And are we agreeable that I'll contact John Hanson and see what his thoughts are, and maybe try to put together a bid package for reshingling it in the spring? And in the meantime, if we can get the volunteer project to do the front this fall, fine, we can peel that off.
Right.
Or if we can get, maybe even some little sections done. I mean, some of the sections aren't too bad. The section facing the gig isn't that bad. Some of them are horrible. Are we good with that? Yep. Okay. So let's go back to that then. I was gonna ask you if you had contacted the Historical Society. Sounds like that's happening thanks to Kathleen tomorrow. But I was a little surprised. I got an email from Kathleen Florence that said something about the Historical Society acquiring property. And that took me a little by surprise. I don't know what they meant by acquiring, whether they meant expanding the lease for the Little Red Schoolhouse, or acquiring to me means acquiring ownership. And I wasn't, personally, I'm not prepared to head in that direction at all at this point, given the fluidity with Gilbert Butler and obviously that would require a town meeting vote. I think amending the lease would require a town. I think it would, but we can research.
I don't think so.
But can you, Catherine, shed any light on that? Were they actually thinking about?
Well, no, that's the key. We're trying to find out what the possibilities are. You yourself, I can't remember at the last meeting, mentioned the word selling.
Yeah.
And that's why, I was like thinking like that. I had no idea what you meant by that. So that's why we acquiring. But the issue of, keeping it under the supervision or maintenance, by the Historical Society is definitely of interest.
Yeah.
It's a historical society, so we would like to avoid bundle and plastic, I'm sure. But, everything is open for discussion.
Okay. Well, yeah, and if I think I was speaking about the totality of options, in terms of theoretically, we could sell it to Lowe's. But not we, and so we don't misunderstand, not we, not the three of us, but the town. So why don't we'll put this matter on the agenda for next week to get an update from you. And I just wanted to say, I personally want to reiterate, I personally envision, given the fluid situation, an amendment to the lease for some period of time that would even have a clause that if the library had to move back there, that it could.
That's my,
Yeah, that's sort of what I was envisioning. But, okay, anybody else have comments or questions on either of those two subjects before we move on? Okay. Yeah, we're trying.
Thank you
We
very much.
understand it's a problem.
If we can regard it, let's keep
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
going.
and I did respond to your email, so check your trash.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's jump up to consider approving temporary relocation of the library to Guilford Butler. We haven't voted on this formally. We have 3 or 4 things in play here. One is to actually or not vote on authorizing the move. We have John Hanson is looking for us to sort of bless his plan that I guess he and Penny kind of collaborated on to put together based on her drawings, went to the fire marshal. And then Penny, you have, Penny has approached me about a discussion she had with John Hanson about digging out where that water leaks in the back. She evidently has someone who's willing to volunteer to do that. And I said, I felt like that's something that you guys needed to talk about. I just couldn't bless that myself. And is there anything else we need to talk about at this point? Oh, did you have one other item? You questioned me about something, I can't remember what it was.
So that we would, need to rent a saw to cut the pavement.
Yeah, well, that's part of the payment, but
Yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe I'll think of it. So how do we want to tackle these? Do we want to deal with the John Hanson issue first?
I think so, because that is a philosophical question. Right now, John Hanson has a permit application put in with the layout that costs 0 money, which means that if we put it in just the way it is, it would be approved just the way it is. Which means no ramp, no wheelchair ramp to get in, no handicap bathroom access. Because we're not spending any money on the basic construction, we are not obligated to provide for those adaptations. And so he wants to know before he puts the permit in, if we want him to include, although we're not required to, we intend to put in a ramp at the front door and make one of the bathrooms handicap accessible. So it's going over and beyond what the requirements of the fire marshal and of what the state law is as far as handicap accessible. So I am in favor of that. I think that it only makes sense. So I would make a motion that we request he include that in his.
Run that by me again. Because I thought you were going in one direction and then all of a sudden.
No. Right now, because there is no expense associated with her moving. The library can move in there with the fire marshal's blessing tomorrow, as soon as he stamps it.
No expense in the sense of repairs or modifications.
Correct.
No expense, you might have expenses.
Yes,
Physically moving. but-
right,
Okay.
yeah, but the way the law is written, you are not required to do any changes to the handicap accessibility unless you do modifications that cost money, and then you are obligated to spend at least 20% on those modifications.
So if we spend $100,000, we have to spend $20,000 on for handicap.
So change of use doesn't create that requirement.
Correct.
Okay, that was.
Yeah, change,
That's a little-
yeah,
the
change
code
of
word
use
is,
does not unless you're doing modification.
Okay, all right, so second.
Okay, I agree. I think we definitely need to have, handicap, bathroom. I assume we'd make that gender neutral. If we only want to do one. And why the front door? Why not the side door? Would that be a lot easier?
Yes, there's two reasons. One is it's easier to do it at the front.
It is.
Yeah, it's easier to do it at the front door than the side.
A lot higher.
Well, when you look at having to put the ramp in, you need length. So if you do it at the other side, you're probably going to have to do a turn and a landing.
Yeah. So I'm,
And just to clarify, he can either do it as, here's my plan, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Or he can do it as a note that goes with it. Although not required to, our intention is within the first year.
I personally would just like to plan to do it.
Okay.
I mean, I would agree. And I think that's the motion. Correct.
It isn't.
Okay. So further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. The other thing I thought of is, one thing, you were gonna do an application to the CEO. Correct. Have you done that?
No, I want to wait until we get fire marshal, because the application CEO needs to show that we have flexible statement.
So what was the other?
I make a motion that we authorize the library to move in on a temporary basis to Guilford Butler, pending fire marshal approval and town CEO.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
The risk level of a rejection is really minuscule. Is that right? Given the homework that's been done?
Correct. It's almost.
Yeah, but I think it's important that we not move until we have a permit.
Right.
Okay,
So what the motion was the, once the approvals come through, then you move. You don't move tomorrow.
Right.
And it's
That's
not-
my
Okay,
understanding.
all right.
okay. Further discussion, Penny, you got any questions on motion or anything? You don't have to have one, I just was wondering if you do. Okay,
One thing I will add is that when we do the CEO permit, there's probably a fee associated with it. And so I am at that point, once we do it, going to recommend that this board waive the fee because it's taking money from one pocket and putting it in another. So just that, yes. Okay, but we don't need to do that.
that just makes Terry do one more accounting friend.
Right.
Okay, further discussion. All those in favor? Okay. And then the concrete, the asphalt removal, John Hanson is convinced, and I agree after looking at it, that if we, right now, the back wall where it leaks downside, the hot tub kind of goes down this way towards the building, and you can tell that it does because the sand collects close to the building in little piles of sand, and it's nice and clean up here. I didn't have a level, but you can tell by looking at it. John feels that if we cut the hot tub here and kind of maybe make a little V, for lack of a better word, there's the build back of the building, a little tiny V trench, for lack of a better word, and the water will go parallel with that, might stop that. And Penny has someone who has a tractor who's volunteered to do that. And he's volunteered to cut the hot tub. The only thing we would need to do is rent a saw. A hot tub cutting saw. And I think it's well worth the investment, so to speak. So I would entertain a motion to approve that. Anything you want to add? Did I get that basically right?
That works,
warrant, fire.
Yeah?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, all further discussion? All those in favor?
Right, because that has nothing to do.
No, it's
Maintaining
just,
the asphalt.
but it would be nice, every time it rains, not to have water. So, anything else we need to do at this point? Good? Okay.
Do you want me to communicate to John to go ahead? Submit the. permit
Yeah,
With,
yeah.
with that. in-
Sure, and I'm just gonna stop by sometime and talk about the little red schoolhouse stuff. And you're gonna follow up with the historical spread. Yeah, and I think you heard our comments too. Okay. Wow. We've done that, we've done, Walker.
I'm waiting to hear from my friend Wyatt, and I'm gonna do a walkthrough with a border that I know tomorrow.
Okay.
Happens to be related to me,
All right.
since he's in town. But I can tell you that what both of them are gonna say is fix these broken things. And they're not gonna add much value beyond that.
Okay. Why don't we see what they say, and then we can get a carpenter or something to look at it. I think I skipped E. Is there any more discussion on this tonight? I did get the letters out to the daycare. As I said earlier, I've heard back from one. I need to get some clarification. I will follow up with the other daycare. I did ask them to respond either way to make sure they got the letter, so.
Who did you hear from, John?
10131.
Oh, okay. That was when I was not sure of the address. I called and.
Actually, could you email out the letters that actually went out?
Yep.
Because I don't have the contact.
Yep.
So is there anything else we want to kick around on this tonight?
We will, I'm still, I think, because it happened before I got on the board. I've seen now in two different places that there's a ARP funding phase 1, ARP funding phase 2,
Yeah.
which are 2 different years, 21 to 22, 22 to 23, I think. Did our notification do the same thing? In other words, are we getting $167,000 in phase 1 and $167,000 in phase 2, or is that?
No, it's my understanding that we're gonna get half of it, in phase 1. and
80
half
something and then 80 something again.
Okay.
Yeah, they call it in 2 tranches. Whatever that word means.
You have to watch Squawk Box.
So, yeah, and I still keep thinking that we got to come up with sort of some,
I think, I don't think we're gonna have. I'm convinced they're gonna provide you with that. When it comes down, this is what you have to verify, and this is what your contractors have to agree to.
oh,
And
yeah.
It's gonna be right there.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I didn't mean we would have to do it ourselves necessarily, but I think the state or someone has to,
Yeah, I think it'll come part and parcel with the.
because there's requirements.
I haven't found anything yet, and I got the email to set up that I can request the funding, but I'm not clear whether you requested happy to request it all at once, or do you want to request it as a project? I can't find much information on it.
The state delayed it. They haven't come out with their. They delayed it, but it's supposed to come out soon, like September 15th or 20th or something. But is there any, have we heard anything from the county about our 3 requests, and do we expect, do you know?
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect it. Their next meeting is, and I'm sure they'll probably do a workshop for it anyway. But the 14th will be their first meeting after getting this. So they may very well consider on the 14th.
Okay.
And the way I had addressed it in the application was, the reason we're wanting your money to do this is because we don't know how much or when we're getting out. And it's important for us to get that, the 35,000 committed for the end of December, so we don't have to redo our grant and reapply. Which is one of the reasons I was wondering if we knew about any phasing.
What I do find to read seems so confusing, though.
I don't think anybody's really got their act together very well.
I agree with John. I think the state is gonna, all of a sudden, they're gonna open it up and say, okay, you can now apply, and here's the rules.
But they say you can request money.
You can,
I can request it, I'm just not sure what exactly, how to request it. And I can go onto the website and it says request payment up here on the corner. And I don't know if you just request your whole amount.
But it may not go anywhere. Click it, because they go
Well, I
right-
clicked it and it was all this information development, and like lead me too far and
I personally would wait until the state, they've got a few more days in there, because they're requesting an extra month.
Yeah.
And just, you know. But you'll end up sending it back to them or something.
I printed it out and put it in a notebook.
And they'll charge you a fee. But do we want to talk any more about uses here tonight, or are we kicked enough around tonight? For now?
I'm good on where we're going.
Walter?
So far, what we prioritize is health, which is top of the list.
Yeah.
Plus the broadband, which is
Yeah.
in the list, but at the bottom of the list.
Okay, speaking of that, I'll talk a little bit about broadband. Okay. I think that brings us down to consideration of appointment to the Conservation Commission Committee. Terry, you heard back from Eileen, and she is still interested.
Yeah, she is, and I put her appointment in the folder you guys assigned me, you were so willing to appoint her.
I moved to appoint Eileen Sparker to the Conservation Commission. Since I've already signed the
Center for a term, can we get a term on it? Ending. It was a 3-year term, because that's one of the things Andrew complained. Yeah.
And 24. It should be on there, isn't it?
So the first select board meeting after the annual town meeting in 2024.
Okay. Second. Discussion. Anybody? All those in favor?
Is she also on the board of appeals? She had that happen as well.
She is already. We appointed her back in. Yeah. Accept the resignation of Corey Fortman as CEO LTI. No. No, he resigned shortly after our next, we met, and we told Terry to email him and let him know what the deal was. He quit the next day with no notice. So that tells me something anyway. So I make a motion, we accept the president's name. Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? I put this on here because I don't know what to do about getting a CEO out there. I mean, we advertise, we get one applicant, we didn't work out well at all, obviously. We get another guy who wants $50,000 a year, or no, $50 an hour. We get no applicants. I mean, I get the $50 an hour. We pay about the same as the Domino pizza driver who gets at least that might take home a Domino pizza and doesn't have everybody complaining about anything. So, but I don't know what to do. I talked to Terry Brackett. He's definitely not interested in taking us on a permanent basis. He can't do it. He told me that the guy who does Owl's Head, does Rockport, Owl's Head and Cushing, and Terry thought he had a very full plate already.
The Rockland guy just resigned today. to go back and, run his construction company, which means that that one's open. So we're gonna be recruiting in the same, fishing in the
but
same
that's a
pond as
full
they are.
time.
Yeah.
Is there any job we could combine here to with current employees? Hang on, Captain, just 1 second. Well,
When did it go out to the list, or
Just one. Or did it?
I haven't noticed since it was on.
yeah, I mean, I didn't think there was any sense in just doing it again. I mean, we can, but,
I think it's worth doing it.
well, I think it's worth doing it too, but I just don't think, I think we're gonna have to think more creatively. I don't anticipate any results. I can put it on the MMA website too.
Yeah, but I think we should. And if we don't get any results, then we need some better, some different.
Well, we put it in the local paper too. What, 2 times ago in the area, we can do that again. It was expensive, and we got no applicants from that. So, Catherine, you had a comment?
Yes, I wanted to know if we compare favorably with other towns who pay CEOs, and do we know if we are way below the average of the other town?
Well, no, I don't think we're way below, although the reason Cory quit is because he thought he was gonna get 75% of.
I think that's an excuse. If
Yeah,
you look at the numbers,
I think he found it was a lot more.
Yeah, I think that was a red hair, but I don't wanna get into discussing him, but, no, I think we're competitive in a per hour range, but we're talking very part-time. And that's why I'm thinking, can we combine it with something else? And I don't know what.
No tape.
Huh?
No
No
tape.
tape.
We need those too.
If we had, yeah, I don't think you're gonna get much on that either. If we had our own assessors agent, a lot of towns combine assessors agents with CEO and LPI, but the downside to that is if that person gets ill or something, you know, and the way we do it now, they got backup.
and in those towns that do combine it, they're either really good at the assessor's agent job, or they're really good at the CEO job, but they're usually not good at.
Yeah, I know. I agree. But so I was hoping that you two would have some brilliant ideas.
No, I think we just need to, we need to try the normal methods of recruitment. Give that a little bit of time and then step it up. I mean, there are 2 things are happening. One is the federal extra money for not working went away. What, yesterday, day before. The state now is ending the workers' comp for the unemployment that has been extended and extended. So I think you're going to start seeing those people who have been more than happy to do nothing and take the money, saying, okay, it's now.
But do we want those people as a?
I don't know, some of them, yeah.
Yeah, and I've read a lot of articles where that isn't having a big impact. But we'll see.
Yeah, it doesn't have any impact to speak of for the 26 states that did it right in the summer.
Yeah, there was a little minuscule impact for like a week or something, but we'll see. All right, well, sure. go ahead.
Does it mean the planning board is on hold until we have the CEO?
No, we have a CEO right. And a plumbing inspector, Terry Brackett, who's the St. George, he stepped up again,
Okay.
but he's gonna be very part-time but no, the planning board's gotta operate. I mean, if you get applications, we gotta process them. I mean, but it's a challenge. I mean, I'm just trying to think of, someone who's recently retired or something who might be interested in it. I almost think we're gonna do better with some sort of personal out.
What are the qualifications?
Well, you gotta become certified as an LDI, which is the course you can take online from the fire marshal's office. And you've got to become, and that you need to do right away before you can perform the duties. By the CEO, you can perform duties while you have so many weeks, I can't remember what they are, to get certified. And I don't know what the specifics are. But no ideas. Other than what we just talked about. I really think we need to think about local people. You know, something, reach out on a personal level. I know John Snow's not interested.
I approached him last night.
I've approached them a couple of times.
And, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll put the job and the same one I put last time on the MMA website, if that's acceptable. I mean, if I can find it. I didn't think I was gonna need it again this quickly. All right. Accept resignation of Anna Genesio as no taker for the planning board. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to accept her resignation with regret.
I'll second the regret, unless that's the discussion as well.
Okay, further discussion.
So if they were to Zoom her in, would she continue to do it, or it's not?
In a nutshell, it turned out to be a lot more than she thought.
Okay, so,
And no taker is probably a misnomer.
so, yeah, well, okay. I had thought that it was the having to be here on the Thursday night. So,
No, it was, she felt like there was always more and more to do, and it was,
I didn't sign up for this.
that was not what she thought she was doing.
And also, quite frankly, it was taking time away from her duties in the office, correct, Terry?
She did some.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think when she first, this is my impression, Dr. Rosella, when she first took the job, she literally thought it was going to be taking notes at the meeting, typing them up. Done.
Yes.
But I'm not on the planning board, but in my mind, that's all it should.
Yeah, but we didn't have a CEO.
I know, and that complicates.
And quite frankly, we gotta get this stuff done. And I know Terry's probably gonna hate to hear it, but I mean, Terry front office is gonna have to step up and, you know, help out with as much as we can to make sure stuff gets posted and on the listserv and on the website and blah, blah, blah. Not just for the planning board, but for everybody.
They gotta send it to us, or
Right.
we can't post it.
Right, and we already had an issue with the Conservation Commission not getting an agenda to Terry in time for their very first meeting. Deal just left, unfortunately. But,
Now, traditionally, the planning board always had one of the members as the secretary.
right,
And had 7 members.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were lucky enough to have the same person you were for many years.
that's the way it always worked.
Well, no, there was a time period where we hired someone. But all she did was take notes and publish them in. Did not do the agenda, did not do any of the setup, did not send the minutes to be published or posted. It was strictly taking the notes and then sending the minutes for approval. But we only did that for a year and a half.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. That was, I was. I mean, quite frankly,
She was quite good at it, but that's right, that's all she did.
That's all.
And she didn't live here either.
That's right.
quite frankly, I think we should have someone who does these meetings as well as the planning, personally. I think it's extremely hard for Terry to participate in these meetings and take notes.
Luckily, Penny does the Zoom, because that was really crazy.
So, But
And that was the other thing I did want to talk.
we did get so the note taker has been put on the list there and on the website. And her, kind of you and her worked out what to say and,
What Brian said it was more detailed.
okay. All right, and the rate per hour is the budget.
Was there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the list of tasks that I saw from Vice Chair creates a planning board administrator job, you know. So what started as a note to take minutes is now a planning board administrator. Obviously, which honored to
And that's why,
figure that out. But
that's
so
why she got done.
the question is, do we allow it? I mean, is that what we're going out to find? Because if you go out and say, I'm gonna go look for a minute taker, that person's gonna walk in, and Ryan's gonna give her all those things to do, and that person might say, I didn't sign up for this.
I think they need someone like.
Well,
I disagree. I was on the planning board for many, many years. The chair.
The chair's
And
halfway
the
around the
CEO.
world. We don't have a CEO.
Well, I know, but that's who has traditionally done it.
I know, but that's when we had a stable CEO for many, many
Okay,
years.
so the chair isn't capable of doing it, then the vice chair needs to step up and do it. But that is a role of the planning board. It is not a role of somebody coming in to take your minutes. The argument that and we did it for years, one of the people, we appointed somebody, a secretary, to take notes, and it was one of the planning board members. And they felt they couldn't participate in the discussion and take the notes.
Right.
And I agree with that. Right? But all the rest of this stuff is stuff that chairs do all over the state. I'm against it.
Well, but it's grown. There's the whole thing of setting up the meeting with the electronic stuff. I mean, you know,
I think Terry does it in St. George. I know he says.
yeah, but they have a CEO.
What? It's true.
We don't have a CEO. You guys keep forgetting.
Well, and I agree, the CEO thing complicates it. But you don't, because the CEO is a problem for us, we don't create this new monster. And setting this up, and this goes back to the discussion that I want to have about this. I don't think we should be publishing the agenda with the Zoom information. If the three of us are going to be here,
Well, let's finish the first.
but this
one.
is part of it. If you're saying that the complication of this job is because you have to set up the Zoom and manage
Well, that's
that,
one.
I maintain that a planning board doesn't need to do that. Okay, all they do is set up the thing for the Zoom. You can do that at time, not Zoom, for YouTube, and they can let it run. And they don't even have to do that unless you're meeting independent. And then you've got the recording.
Yeah.
So
I actually like the fact that Terry put it on the select board agenda because I was hoping it would hold on enough people. Actually, how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we have one too many. I can take this mask off. I was hoping that, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I was hoping people would participate remotely, that just come and observe.
and there's two different participations. One is the public having access to our meetings. That is not Zoom. That's YouTube. The other is people out there coming in to talk to us and share with us. That's Zoom. And you don't need to do Zoom every meeting. We had to tonight because one of the people we wanted to talk to us, the DOT guy, had to Zoom in because he couldn't physically be. If he hadn't have been here, I would have said no Zoom. Because we're here, then public should be able to come here.
Well, can you observe it on YouTube live? That's
Yes,
not
yes,
asking how it
yes,
works.
yes.
There's
you
a
just
thing
can't
that
interact.
we can play though, that makes it really hard to participate.
Right, it's
Well,
not
you
a
wouldn't participate, though. You could observe.
there's no requirement to have the public participate in our meetings. Unless we have a section that says public participation.
But it also means that if one of us at the last minute decides that we can't be there, we can't participate. Because the agenda wasn't posted.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Well, that's the opinion we got from MMA, and I didn't necessarily agree with it at the time.
No, because again, it's, they didn't say Zoom. They said, how does the public observe?
No, you gotta be, it said you gotta meaningful participation.
If one of us.
Right,
is
and
not-
that's my point. So if at the last minute I decide I can't be there, and it's not on the agenda, then
Well,
I can't,
yeah,
then I can't.
then I agree.
And with the planning board, the chair misses half the meeting, or certainly a quarter of, you know,
But in the old days, that person just wasn't there.
I know.
You just had
I know.
two people there.
Walter.
I'm gonna take one of the reins to discuss it. Because I'm becoming not excited about coming here for the time being. For me.
I'm not thrilled about it. Which is
And
why
the-
I was glad
The
that it was.
transfer station board, we've gone to Zoom.
Have you?
Yeah. And we can do that without, because we're only a quasi municipal, we're a not-for-profit, so we can make our own rules, I think.
I don't think so, but
You're
you're a quasi,
We have open meetings.
but we don't need
Yeah.
to solve their problem.
It's not solve their problem, because we got enough problems.
And if that's the case, then we would, if you don't want to participate in person and you participate remotely, then that ends the discussion. It has to be available. So I don't know. I mean, I hate this. I hate the whole thing.
But I am curious what Catherine would say. She's on the planning board.
I think, you know, a lot of the discussion last time was about finding a process that would make sense. You know, like having the agenda, which information to put on the agenda. So for instance, instead of saying, you know, just the name permit for such and such, say what kind of permit it was and give the address so that it can serve as a notice to the people, you know, and, you know, instead of having to publicize all this. So, and, you know, I know the issue is who does what. That's always the problem. You know, we don't want to burden the dairy, but we can't access the computer for the town, or the server for the town either. So, you know, somebody in the front office has to be involved. And, you know, the question also is the timing. How long in advance do people get the information? You know, we can't decide on the permit if we get the material the night before. So that pushes everything, you know. Again, you know, I know Ryan is being very, I don't know what the word could be, precise about all the processes and so forth. But the intent is to try to organize this so that there is no surprise. So right now it's growing pains, I would say. But once we have a system in place, I think it should roll very easily. So the note taker is definitely an issue. I agree, if you have to take notes, you can't really follow what's going on and participate. So that completely makes sense. And ideally, so from what I understand, Terry, you're saying that it's impossible to just record and then have the note taken afterwards. Like if somebody were to record a meeting and then create the notes.
So that means you sit through a whole meeting and then you sit through the whole meeting again, and that's
That's
huge
just
amount of time. Yes, too. I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
It takes forever to do that.
Well, one at a time. Hold on. So I'm just sort of letting this free flow here. So Penny, you have a comment?
Well, if it was one of the planning board members and they posted it to YouTube, they could go back, they could participate, and then they could go back and do the note.
Right. Like she said, you gotta sit through 2 meetings.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
long time.
Well, I've lost what our objective here.
Yeah.
It was about the note taker.
A note
Yeah,
taker.
I mean,
That's the thing, and my guess is I don't want to be the note taker. So if nobody volunteers to be the note taker, what's the process? You know, the short straw. I mean, how do we do it?
Don't know. That's something.
Broad shoulders for the chair.
Yeah, that's something for the planning board to figure out, but But if we're, what, I don't even know what the gender is.
We're on G.
We haven't voted to accept that.
That's
as
right.
resignation.
We're on
Yeah,
7G.
all right, well, let's go to accept it. Okay, all right, is there further discussion? All right, all those in favor accept it, okay. Terry put out an ad for a note taker with a description based on information she got from Irv and Ryan, correct?
Yes, mostly I took what Ryan
Okay.
said. because it was-
And now I'm hearing that there are objections to that, now that it's already out there from certain members of the select. So do you guys, what do you want to do about that?
It's out there now, let it go and see if we get any bites. If you don't, then you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to pare back your expectations.
Okay, that's one issue. Go ahead.
So, but Terry asked also about rate of pay, but I think the answer to that.
I think the rate of pay is,
Go back to the-
yeah, and there's only so much in the budget.
Yeah.
So once they run out of hours.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay. Specifically for that, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I remember.
Now, there might be other items in the planning board budget if they don't spend some of their other funds.
Like lunch.
Yeah. So, anyway. All right, now there was an issue, Jeff, you brought up about remote participation notices on the agenda. So I feel like I feel like we're all over the place on this, and Terry needs clarification. If she's gonna ask me, and I'm gonna say, I don't know.
Well,
And I personally like it. I see no reason it can't be.
except what it does is, like tonight, Amy, because it was on and accessible to her, Amy decided that she was going to.
Which I was very happy with, given she lives in all the
But if you have the option there, people are going to take it. And I don't think it's an obligation from the town to make that option.
I know, but right now, why is that bad? I see that as a good thing. I don't want to sit in this room with 30 people. I see that as a positive thing. I almost don't like saying,
For most of the people that were in here,
yeah,
they could have done it on YouTube.
I know, and I wish they had.
Okay, so that's what we put on the agenda. And then we go, if you are going to participate, then call Terry to get the Zoom.
I'm fine with that.
That makes sense to me.
Do you understand that? See, I don't understand how all this technology works.
Participating. Anyone that wants to Zoom can participate.
No.
They have something they wish to say to us,
Oh,
and they want a two-way conversation.
okay.
Okay?
All right, so
They
you
just
want
want to observe.
YouTube?
Well, can you post the Zoom on YouTube?
I don't even know how to post
Oh,
the YouTube link, but I'm sure
The
Penny can help.
YouTube's on the website,
Right, but
YouTube channel,
how do you get there? That's all they need is the channel?
I'll go check on that. I believe.
See, I don't understand.
That's how you see them after the fact, is you go to the stuff. on
Right, I know how to see them
But they're
afterwards,
big.
but
They're being put out right now as we speak on
Yep.
YouTube, but there's a delay, a 6-second delay.
No, it's like very important.
Oh,
It's significant enough that when someone comments, and this happened when Owen had me at home, texting him that someone commented, by the time the comment got to you, the board had moved on. And it wasn't time to go
But
back.
that's participating. If someone wants to comment, they should ask for a Zoom. Right?
right, yes,
If we're saying, if you want to just observe, you can observe it on YouTube.
which is our obligation. Our obligation is to provide the public access to our meetings.
As long as the three of us are here.
Correct.
Actually, as long as the three of us are here, we don't have to do any of this
Well, that's true, but we have chosen
to do it.
to do
So-
over and beyond.
Right. So the plan going forward, this will change by the next week, is as long as the three of us are here, we're simply gonna put the YouTube notice on the agenda. Oh boy, this is gonna mess everybody up. We just sent a notice out to all the other boards. We just can't
can't
stick
they
with
do
this.
what they want? I mean,
No,
It's even worse. Can't we just stick with what we have for a while?
so these two people that were here with Catherine,
right.
they would have gotten a Zoom, they would have said, I want to participate because they wanted to comment on the article. So anyone getting the agenda is gonna say, I want to talk about that on Zoom. And then they'll call me for Zoom.
Can't we just leave it the way it is for a few weeks and see how it works? I just sent out all that information to all the other boards. So we put, if you want to observe the select board meeting, here's the YouTube. If you want to participate, but see, anybody who's going to participate, they should tell us ahead of time anyway. That's the reason.
That was my point.
No, everybody can walk into this meeting. They don't have to tell us. Only because we have a public comment section, which we are not. No, they can walk into this meeting. But we are not obligated to even listen to.
I
understand that, but they can walk into this meeting. I know they can. Yeah. Okay, but if they're going to bring something to us, if they have a question of us, if they have a comment for us, they should let us know ahead of time, so we can include it in our agenda. That's the way the process should work. I think we're making it way too complicated, and we should just leave it alone for a few weeks and see where it goes. Put the YouTube one on it. Sure, because I would rather have as many people going to YouTube as possible, as opposed. And if they're on Zoom, we don't have to let them in.
There's no way to do a direct link to a YouTube video that doesn't exist yet. After the fact, you can share that link, but you could put something to the effect of, check self-promising court channel for the live video.
I
But
can.
there, you can't put up a link to the video that hasn't started.
I can't even find the YouTube after 2 weeks. Later, I watched them. I watched these meetings when I was not on the board. No, when it was going away.
Well,
You go into the YouTube
Yeah.
address and it says in progress, and you hit the in progress
Right.
and it takes you to it.
Yeah, because you open the YouTube channel app or you
Correct.
went to YouTube and you browse
Correct.
and watch the now.
And the meeting had already started.
But then you can't put a link in an agenda.
We can put the YouTube address. YouTube address.
Yeah. At youtube.com. That-
But I think,
that-
I think what we do is we link Zoom to YouTube. And what you can do, since people do it all the time, is forget about Zoom and just record on YouTube.
Yeah, that does not allow me to vote.
Yeah, but then Amy can't participate and Brian.
Right. Oh, yeah, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying
Oh, I see.
that the watching on YouTube in real time right now requires, because of the way we've set this up, that we do the meeting, we Zoom the meeting.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. Because our Zoom is linked to the YouTube channel. And there's some secret sauce that only Penny and Anna and no one knows.
It's doing the recording and simply posting them to YouTube. You could post them to main town, then or whatever, that $60 a month one. YouTube is a free thing that doesn't cost.
Just to cut to the chase here, what is the harm in putting the Zoom like that? I don't understand the harm. There is no real harm, except that if somebody is gonna talk with us and we're here, I would rather they come in and talk with us. Because even on Zoom, there's no good two-way conversation. And see, there's where we disagree. I would, at this point in time, I'd rather have them talk to us on Zoom. And I think Walter would too. I would love it if there were only 5 people here.
But you have people coming in with that, you know,
Huh?
Jeff Parker
Yeah.
could make that a more,
Well, yeah, but we're talking about the children. That could be a ways away. Not as far as I got.
I heard him say 2 meetings.
Yeah, I know. I think that's on.
These 2 meetings, he's gonna give us the auto drive Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's up. So can't we, while he's working on this, can't we just stick with the Zoom?
I'm okay with it.
I can live with it.
Okay, good, because I think we've killed this. I know you don't like it.
Are we putting both?
Depend if you want, I could feel less, but,
I prefer you personally, but that's just me personally.
all right, so have we killed that or what? That was all around, and
That's all we have.
all right. All right, so we're moving, no, we got a bunch of those guys. Yeah, we got, hold on, maximum. No, lobster trap removal program. Jerry got a call from the guy who empties cans. He really has needs cans bad. And ours sits out there for weeks at a time. We're paying $140 for it. We do get reimbursed for it. Thomaston Recycling is paying people $1 per trap to buy them. So my question is, should we continue this program? I mean, very little participation, right, Terry? I mean, virtually none.
Okay, so I don't have a clue.
I know, I don't need it, because I wasn't doing half, but, we got a grant somehow to set up a can out back where people could bring in lobster traps for free. They have to take out, as I understand, the rope and bricks. Have to be just metal. And now we got a huge pile of rope out there because of it. And at first there was pretty good
Right,
participation.
it wasn't intended to be going on like that.
So now that that can is sitting out there, I don't think we changed it out in 3 months, Terry, 4, 5,
I think it's been one since I've been here.
and he needs cans. You know, the big roll-off bin, I call them cans.
So we satisfied the grant.
Well, Terry, I asked Terry to call when Jerry brought this up. And Jerry evidently already told the guy to come get it. And I said, oh, Jerry, you gotta call him back. You just can't do that. I said, we might have a grant application here. So you were gonna call and you couldn't today, you couldn't get a hold of,
I couldn't get a hold of Katie, who's our representative. Kate went and called me back for her, and she seemed really reluctant to end it. She wants me to have a phone conversation with them Thursday to discuss grant and the options and how to get more and really stand with.
so in the interim, because this guy wants this can right away since we're not moving it. He could come and get it, empty it. It is pretty full now, I guess, or semi-full.
I think it's.
And we do get reimbursed for all this. And then we could, if someone does show up with crap, we could take them out there and he could come back with a can. So I just want to make sure everybody's good with that for the time being. Any objections? And Terry, you can find out more on Thursday. But I mean, given that we got someone who's paying $1 for it, I personally feel like we shouldn't be undercutting the private enterprise.
Who's paying for them?
Thomas the Recycling. I talked to Beverly.
Okay.
And Jerry thought they were taking them out at the transfer station. Was that? Do you have any? I don't know that. I didn't think that if it's just metal.
Oh, they're gonna throw in the metal?
Yeah, that's what he thought. He says, well, I think clean them out. He says, I thought they always took them over there. But what they don't like, I guess, a lot of people don't like to clean them out.
Right.
Take all the twine out of them, but they're supposed to do it here too.
But I think that when I wasn't here for the grant, I think the theory behind it is they do something with it. So do something in some way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be better than giving it to recycling.
Yeah, and maybe you'll learn more about that. Okay, so transfer station rental update.
Okay. So we have our construction, the good news is we have our construction permit, we have our fire marshal's authorization. The bad news is that we are underwater between $200,000 and $300,000, and we don't know how we're gonna solve that problem.
Yeah. 2 and 3.
2 to 300,000.
300,000. Okay.
So,
And we're worried about what to put on the agenda. I'm glad that's true.
so, our funding sources were all the perk money and the 400,000 on the bond.
Yeah.
And the original bid came in and was well under what the projection was in 2016. But then again, that was 2016.
Yeah.
And now we've gone through some cycles of not being able to close the deal. Among other things, we really had like what is ended up to be a 4-month delay because of the Thomaston Planning Board. I hope you're listening because you know how mad I am at you.
Thomas, not Thomas.
Anyhow, so we have gone back to the engineering company, among other things that got acquired during all this. A much larger company, and all of a sudden our $1.2 million project was, small change to the big company. So we've gone to the engineering company and told them to value engineering our way back to our budget. And I think where we're going to end up is the way this project is designed is, first of all, we own all the new compactors. So, and the big expense of the big cost overrun is we're building a metal building over the compactors. And we're probably going to end up phasing that in over some period of time. The reason, obviously, for having a metal building and closing those compactors is in the wintertime, they add to the weight, and we pay by the weight, all the weights. Shows you how much I've learned. Somebody's going to take over this video. So stay tuned.
Okay.
The board is adamant that we're not going to the taxpayers to bail us out
Yeah.
at the moment.
And our share of that would be
26%.
26%. So that would be like 25 to, well, yeah. Okay. And then.
Or we could ask some towns to increase our borrowing. That's an option that we haven't discussed.
Okay. So you got more to come on that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I made a note 9 months, but I don't remember what that.
Okay. So at the end of September, we were going to be halfway through the budget, the 18-month budget process.
Yeah.
I suggest that we put together a detailed workup and share it with the budget committee along the way for the last 2 years anyway, at the halfway point. So something to think about when we get all our September financials.
Okay. So Terry, is that something in the month of September done that you guys can put together a sort of spreadsheet or something that shows where we are? But I mean, you kind of do that anyway. Do you actually want to meet with the budget committee in this time of COVID?
Well, we can Zoom. Moira doesn't like Zoom, but Moira also likes the meeting. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Terry, would you mind put that on the agenda? Probably our first meeting in October to kind of finalize those plans. Does that work also?
fine.
Okay. And Island Road.
Terry, if you can easily send that to me, I'll try to chart it around.
Okay. Island Road.
I had a request from a citizen to raise striping in it because originally it was scheduled to be repaid completely starting 3 years ago, but the project got in the way of that. So now it probably needs paving more now than it did 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But there are no yellow stripes on that road. But by the way, there aren't any on Westbrook either.
No. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, I was gonna ask you, but when you went to inquire about that, they had no yellow paint, correct? I think you told me, because we budgeted to strike Westbrook. I don't have the budget in front of me, but we did budget to strike Westbrook. And you called to schedule it, and they had no yellow paint. And when I was talking to Paul Stilton at DOT, they had the same problem. However, I've seen that they now have done some yellow painting, so maybe.
They strike button though.
Yeah, well, maybe that shortage has been relieved, but believe it or not, you couldn't get, at one point in time, you could not get yellow road paint. Because of some ships sitting in China. So, I don't think we budgeted for Island.
I'm sure we did.
And I was actually gonna remind you, Terry, to call, because if we don't do Westbrook, once the leaves start falling, you know, you get leaves in the paint and. So, it's almost, well, unless they can do it fairly quickly. But I think Westbrook's the only, I don't remember, I don't have, does anyone have a budget? I don't know. But if we strike Island Road with all the holes and delaminations, I think we're gonna take a year. Because I already got an earful, which I might as well bring it up now. We're gonna bring it up on correspondence, but Diane Post called me and talked to me at length about how very much opposed to us spending any more money on the road project. The road needs to be repaved. We should be doing it post haste. It is a mess and getting worse. So I told her, I said, I didn't think that was gonna happen. I said, we're going on plans to go up to bid November. I said, I think we're gonna wait and see what those bids bring in. And if those bids are crazy high, like a lot of bids seem to be, then maybe the board will rethink it and delay it. Maybe they won't. So I just passed it on. But it is getting really bad. I mean, delaminating in lots of places, potholes, which has nothing to do with striping, but. I mean, but if you guys want to, hey, I mean, you guys want to stripe it, I mean, we can. Or, well, maybe we can, if we can get paid.
Well, I reacted to the request about Island Road. But what do I know? But I think Westbrook has a priority.
Oh,
It's a more dangerous road to begin with.
Yeah.
There are no lines on it right now.
No, I think Westbrook is much higher priority. You got those hills where people are coming at each other and it's big, heavy. I mean, Westbrook is a problem. And the other one we typically stripe is Water Beach. But I'll tell you, most towns don't, a lot of towns don't do any stripe. I mean, a lot of Walter doesn't stripe any of its towns. A lot of towns, they say that you can tell a state road from a town road because the state road is striped and towns aren't. But, so Terry, can you at least get Westbrook in the works if they can? Yeah, and let us know what we budgeted for and. Can I ask who that was? You don't have to know if you don't want.
It was walk through from the right side. Alan's flat side, sorry.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right, we have a donation to the Conservation Commission. Correct?
Yes, $10.10.
From whom?
Is there bottles for the cleanup?
Oh,
Conservation.
so is it even a donation or is it just program meeting from the commission?
That's what it was an ocean shoreline cleanup.
Yeah, but if the commission did it, they
Well, it was, a goal to volunteers to help them do it.
Yeah. Well, we can accept the donation, but I question whether it's even a donation, it just should go into their account, I would think, but that's okay.
Move to accept.
I'll second. Further discussion, I hope not. All those in favor, for $10.10. We dealt with new hires. I passed on Linda's. Oh, we had some correspondence regarding broadband. I am confused because we have now, I thought Cliff told us that the Midcoast Internet Coalition was history. And yet we're getting agendas and minutes and their meetings
From the corporation.
but it says Midcoast Internet
Yeah.
Coalition.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be on that meeting tomorrow, so.
Okay, I mean, that's really confusing. So it is there. I think it even said, I think even on the top of the agenda,
It says MIC, right, which I
thought so. I mean, but now I can't find it. Yeah, Mid-Coast Internet Coalition meeting, August 11th.
Oh, that was then. Oh, the agenda for tomorrow just came out this afternoon.
And then, does that say the same thing?
I didn't look at it. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. No, Mid-Coast Internet Coalition, September 8th agenda.
Huh.
So again, confusion on my part, but clarity sometimes is lacking. And we've heard nothing back at all regarding our comments. You haven't had anything back. Is that something that we could ask tomorrow? They did acknowledge receipt. And then there was a letter that they were requesting. I don't know if they're looking for us as a board to do this. I didn't quite understand from Denise Munger. And that's the one supporting the process.
That's the one supporting the Rockport, which we already.
Okay, so that's the
we
same
already
thing.
Rejected the request.
Okay, and this does say at the top, MIDC. Okay,
Of which she's an officer.
okay. And so that helped me out a little. Okay, warrants, reviewing, did I get everything?
I wrote a letter to Lane.
Okay, so that, yeah. Thanking her for her service and. Yep. Okay. Warrant review, so while we're on this, would anyone object if it would just help me, and I think it might help Terry, if we had added a standing agenda item that simply sort of said something to the effect, this next agenda item or something like that. So at the end of the meeting, we could just quickly kind of go through and there may be others added, but just kind of based on the discussion we had that night, if we could kind of review what agenda items kind of came out of that. Is there any objection to that? Or just out of the self-discipline? Schedule future meetings. We're scheduled to October, right?
Yes.
Should we schedule November? Getting, believe it or not. I think we probably should.
Normally it would be the ninth. Probably, meeting was in the hospital. They're anesthesia. You won't see me. I can't even Zoom her.
It's second for the election. Right? We want to do the 23rd, 2 days for Thanksgiving. That is Dr. Hall. Yeah, but I'm good. We can do the 16th. And when are we meeting in October though? I got it on my calendar.
Well, 26.
Okay, so the 16th would be 3 weeks out, but that's not terrible. So why don't we, how about the 16th and 30th?
I might be zooming on the 16th.
November. Okay. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I vote to adjourn.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? And I got all these warrants. So we can shut the meeting down. Good night, thank you. Are we still recording? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
We can hang our masks up. It's less than 6 people. I won't do it to you, so.